Good evening, parents, guardians, students. Welcome to Miss Floyd's SFA class. Tonight I'm going to give you a rundown on basically what a class is like in my room and what your children can expect in my room. I've got a wonderful group of students this year. I'm looking so forward to what we're going to do. Now, most of my students I had last year as fourth graders, and I have a few fourth graders in the mix this year. Do not worry, parents. Mrs. Rosales worked very carefully with me last year so that the books we read last year in my SFA class would not be duplicated for your child this year. And so the goal is that your children will see books that they have not read before. But before we get into the novels that are so awesome, we've just finished 3 weeks of getting along together. If you look to my right, there's the peace path, the feelings thermometer, training brain, active listening, hurdles. We talked about all of those skills that are so important in everyday life because I can't think of a time when we're not working as a team. I tend to be one of those introverts. Yes, I know, believe it or not, but I'm the kid and I'm the adult that likes to sit to the side and would rather just do my own work and concentrate. And that works sometimes, and that's very important, that reading on your own and going into your own world. But so often we are called upon to work in teams in business and in school. What a great place to get started at teamwork as to start with the SFA program. Your children have come home if they're face-to-face, or they have been emailed if they're distance learning, the important components of our SFA folder. I did ask your children in class to please put their reading logs in a folder to keep track of them. The first thing, the first thing that I like to have in the front of the folder, if your child were here and I were making it, it would be the read and respond 4th and 5th grade questions. Okay? Now, how this works is each week your child will select 2 sentences or 2 questions to write out on their read and respond sheets. I did download these and email them. Now, in my class, I like to prepare the SFA log for the quarter. I found it's easier. I found that as children are writing sentences, that if I make a correction, the child still has it in their folder so that they can look back to make sure they're not making that same mistake. However you choose to set it up at home, I still highly encourage the use of the SFA folder. So the questions, and then the daily reading log. The children were all familiar with this. There are 4 days you read, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Your child puts the date, the title of the book, the pages read, and it's very important, parents, that you sign off on that to make sure that your children are reading. Please remember that if you are reading science for me or history for me one evening, your child has to read the lesson, and that's coming up pretty soon. So if they have to read a lesson, a section, a little chapter in history or science, that can count as their 20 minutes. There is not a problem with that. We have plenty of homework to go around, and we don't want to overstress. I know that I have some children, especially I'm going to have in this class, that are going to want to read no matter what you do. But if the evening's going crazy and the world's falling down, let them count that science or that religion reading as their 20 minutes. Now, like I said, twice a week, your child will pick a question from the list to answer. Certain questions will certainly go with certain types of readings and others will not. The requirement that I explain to your children and what we have for the reading log. Number 1, on the front of the page, question numbers are here and they date them. The question cannot be repeated. Okay, so let's say here they decide to do question 4, write a detailed summary using words first, next, then, and finally. If they do that question and that happens to be number 4, here, they cannot do it again here. Okay? Some nights I may assign a question. So I want you to know that. Also, and I'll be getting into it, the skill that we're targeting this year in SFA is going to be clarifying or clarification. So there might be an evening or a week, and I say, hey guys, I want you to do number 6. 3 words from the story that were hard for me. The tools I used to clarify were, did they chunk it? Did they sound it out? Did they reread and find context clues? Did they do all of those things and they still weren't sure? Maybe they went to dictionary.com. I love dictionary.com. I love it in class when we come up on words that children do not know. Because not only do they give you a definition, and many of them, but there's also a microphone that you can hit and it will pronounce the word for your child if it's a word that they're not accustomed to. So I love that because we all know the word hors d'oeuvre does not even look like it sounds. And so so your children will do their reading. Of course, Labor Day, they have a holiday on Monday. I don't expect that. Many of the children will read. They do have to show me these reading logs each day, and by Thursday, one of these 2 questions must be answered. If both of them are answered, that's great, but you cannot do both questions in an evening, so they should be doing a question Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday evening, so that on Thursday I see one of them done, and they can do their last one on Friday. I have some students, they want to get it out of the way. Monday night they'll do one, Tuesday night they'll do one. Again, it's what works for the child. I'm just looking for that. And as far as their responses, it's a minimum 4-sentence response to fully explain what they're talking about. And I will be making notes on this and I will be warning your children before I really clamp down. But sometimes children will write pages and sometimes it doesn't answer the question. So I'm really looking for that. And speaking of, some children just get carried away and this is not enough space. That is perfectly okay. If you're a distance learner, have your child just put the remainder of the answer on a sheet of notebook paper to show me. If they come to class, all they have to do is get a sheet of notebook paper, stick it in here, let me know, and I'll probably go back in and add it for them. So, this is a homework grade. It's very important that your child reads and reads every evening. Your children are eligible now to take their AR quizzes in order to qualify for the reading award, the minimum, and then there's the star reading goal. There's always the minimum number of points, and then there's the bigger goal that's established for your child. And so children can be taking those AR quizzes now. Please bear in mind that at home, the AR testing system is only open during regular school hours. So if they try to test on the weekend or in the evenings, they are not going to have access to that. That is a part of their grade. At the end of the quarter, the required points will be a test grade. So please encourage your child to read. I'm not anticipating any problems, but as we get closer, and I'll ask for a report, and if I see that your child is behind, I will let you know. We have 6 weeks left in the quarter. Of course, there's summer reading books. They should have quizzed over. If they have not, ask them. That can easily get their points. If they want to read a large book like a Harry Potter book, and that's going to be all their points plus, I encourage them to read something else along with that. Most of the children will make that goal and get all those points, but occasionally a child will have problems. They wait till too long to the end of the quarter and they're not able to read another book and they fall short of that goal. So I love those long books and I think it's fabulous, but ask them to put another book in. Of course, when we get to reading novels, your children will be taking AR quizzes on those as well, so they will get points from that. Again, we've come out of getting along together, and the first thing we are going to do is we're going to work in what we call the savvy reader, and we are going to work on the skill of clarifying. And clarifying is just that way. I'll read you what SFA says, but clarifying is just what you would think. Understand what you read. If we don't understand it and we go forward, we could be missing the big point of the story. Students will stop when they don't understand what they read and apply clarifying strategies to fix their comprehension. Children love to read and they love to get in a hurry. I'm the very slow reader, and I'll share that story with your children. It took me 4 or 5 times to ever read the first Harry Potter book. I got so lost in the words muggle and something's turning into a cat and da-da-da. And finally, I was forced to read it after having hand surgery. And I said, I'm going to get through the book. Once I got down the vocabulary J.K. Rowling used, I was able to read the book and thoroughly enjoy myself. But I had to go back to enjoy myself. And I share that with your children. A lot of books they can pick up and read on and they get it. Other times they'll come to things and they think they know the meaning of the word. And they don't. And they mistake the context clues. So again, there's nothing worse than reading a book and you think you know what's happening and all of a sudden you read the next chapter and you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. So that's what we're working on, clarification. We will be working on the novel, or these are actually going to be short stories. Your children will be reading it first. And then we will move into expository reading, which expository readings are just like they're going to see in a textbook. Let's understand what we're reading. Your children will be working in teams. Their first experience with breakout rooms was a hallelujah moment. The students that are here in the classroom, they kind of head up those individual teams, and your children break apart with them. I am able to monitor your children by going into their chat room, or into their breakout rooms. I can question them, I can just listen in, but I can also listen in the classroom as I'm walking around. You can tell if children are arguing. One big thing that is really big for Miss Floyd is it's okay to agree to disagree on an SFA question. Some kids will fight to their death to say they are right. Well, no, we don't want those arguments. Sometimes it's better agree to disagree. You keep your answer, you keep your answer, and then when Miss Floyd always reviews it, let's see who was right, and maybe you were both right for different reasons. So again, there is going to be that agree to disagree, but your children will still continue working in groups. All of the information your child will need on clarifying what's sent to your children, and we will go through that. It's online. And so the children that are at home are reading the identical material and studying everything that the children in class are studying. The first week, and a week in SFA, a cycle. Really, we think in terms of a cycle. A cycle can be as short as 5 days. I've seen some cycles go 9 days. We try to keep like cycle 1, day 1. We try to finish all of that within the time that's allotted so that we don't keep delaying and putting off and not progressing. And so this first part when we started clarifying, excuse me, is going to be teaching your children the skills and the questions to ask about clarifying. We have strategy cards. Your children will have copies of those strategy cards.